even emergency vehicles. People bring their transmission.
I'm Bridget Metzger here with Kid Witness News, interviewing world-renowned blues artist Toot Sweet. How are you today?
Bridget, I'm doing fine. I'm just doing fine.
Well, that is wonderful to hear, Toot. Tell me about your musical career so far.
Well, Bridget, it's like this. I was born to some poor white trash up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh,
Yeah, that's on the Monongahela, Allegheny, and Ohio River, where they all come together up there.
And did you have a nice childhood, Toot?
Well, we moved around a lot, and I guess that's where I got the feeling for the blues, because we moved so often, all I could see was the blue sky up above us in the car.
I think we can all relate to blues.
The blues is a wonderful thing. You know, a lot of people don't appreciate the blues these days, but it is coming back. And I'm proud to say that I was in the forefront of the revival of the blues.
Well, that is marvelous, Toot. Can you tell me about some of your specific career adventures?
Oh, well, sure. You know, when I was growing up, there wasn't a real big blues scene in Pittsburgh, you understand. Most of the good blues music was coming out of Chicago, Memphis, New Orleans, a little bit in Philadelphia and some in Detroit. So I figured, well, I either had to play some ethnic Italian or Polish music or leave Pittsburgh and become a blues artist, and that's what I did. I went to Chicago.
Do you ever go crazy and just play a polka?
I tried that once, and I really, it got me up so much that I almost had a heart attack, and I just had to quit that. I like the blues because it's a soulful thing. You know, back early in my career, I played with folks like Buddy Guy, Charlie Musselwhite, Little Walter, Magic Slim. You know, all these guys came out of the Delta region in the Mississippi and New Orleans, and then they migrated up to Memphis and really won a big blues scene in Memphis back in the early days. And they went up to Chicago, and they created that famous Chicago sound where you heard all the electric guitars and the horns, and people like B.B. King, who was very instrumental in creating that sound. And of course, I was the man behind the scenes because I arranged all them horn parts and all them albums.
Naturally.
And yeah, we did play in a lot of natural keys. We liked to play in F sharp every once in a while and B flat, but most of all we played in like A natural.
Well, that's marvelous. Who would you say has been the major influence on your personal music taste?
Well, I guess I could always say there was the three B's. There was Beethoven, there was Brahms, and there was B.B.
B.B. King, you mean?
Oh, B.B. King, of course. B.B. King was probably the most instrumental person in my career. Why, after I left Pittsburgh and I was floating around in Chicago, I didn't have no work. I had to play in a couple of dive bars every now and again just for, you know, a couple of hamburgers and some chili dogs. And B.B. King saw me one time and he offered me a job. And the first job I had was carrying his guitar case.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's very interesting. In your musical past, have you ever had a problem with groupies?
Well, you got to understand that the blues scene isn't quite like this popular music scene. You know, you had some old hags laying around at the bar end of the night, and if you drank enough of Brass Monkeys, you know, they start to look pretty good, but it was more you chasing them and not them chasing you.
I see. Well, that's wild.
Well, some of them were wild. Most of them were pretty, I would say, just abnormal.
Well, would you like to play us a little tune on your toot horn here?
Well, you know, I have my toot horn out here because this was the first horn I actually played on the stage in Chicago after I left Pittsburgh. But I hadn't touched it since, and it's all rusted up, as you can see. I mean, all the finish is off, and if you look right down there in the bell, you probably see some cobwebs, and I don't even know if I can, you know, make the thing make noise, but it is a very sentimental piece for me, and I take it with me wherever I go just to remind me of my roots.
It's lovely.
Oh, it is a fine piece. Back in them days, that piece probably cost me, $20, $30, you know?
Gosh.
Today they're
Wow.
going for, $300, $400, $500. So if I ever need, some money, I probably might let it go. I'm not quite certain.
Hmm. Is there a big drug scene in blues music?
The blues was notorious. See, to sing the blues, you had to be down, and a lot of people in blues music were really strung out on cheap wine. Back in those days, we had Mogan David, of course, and then there was the infamous Bally High, with a little sweet wine, and it was red, and it certainly sufficed to make you religious every now and again. You drank enough of it, and you certainly had to sing the blues.
I see. Well, do you have any blues songs off the top of your head you could belt out for us?
Well, off the top of my head, I really don't know. I mean, I really play from like fake sheets that they stick out in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
being a session man like I am. I don't write too much blues music because those words are real tough, making them rhyme and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then keeping them in the right meter and hitting the chord changes is probably a little beyond my technical proficiency. But man, I can play them notes with the best of them.
Well, that's great. What do you plan to do with your musical future in the blues?
Well, I'm thinking about maybe even starting up a blues band with some alternative instruments. Most of the blues bands got the guitar and they got the drums and they got a good hot keyboard player and probably a harmonica man, a few horns in the background. And I'm thinking, well, what about those instruments that you don't hear in the blues, like violins and
Accordions.
accordions would be a good one. And the French horn always impressed me a little bit. And so I'm thinking about maybe getting an ensemble together to play that type of music.
I'd love to hear that.
It should be most eclectic, but my problem is just finding a label that would pick me up to do that.
Problems with the blues.
The blues never end. I mean, I had the blues since I was born in Pittsburgh, and I probably got the blues today. And what can I say? But the blues is me, and I'm the blues.
What makes you feel blue, Toot Sweet?
Life in general is pretty blue when you get right down to it, Bridget. You wake up in the morning and you go over to the coffee machine and you're out of coffee. You're feeling pretty blue. And you go outside and you get in your car, you put that key in it, and that sucker just don't want to go. I mean, it makes you feel pretty blue. Then you go up to the 7-Eleven and they got completely out of your favorite brand of cigarette and beer. It's a tough life, and someone's got to sing about that stuff that everyday people have. That just they encounter it on a daily basis.
I agree with you completely.
Well, I think that's why the blues is resurging today. Because people are a little confused. They went through the pop music scene for a while, then they went through the alternative music scene, and now they're going, or they went through that punk stage where everybody frizzed up their hair and dyed their eyebrows purple, and that seemed to not give it to them. But they're finding the blues. As I travel around the country, I find blues music on stations everywhere. And people are going back to the guys like Bobby Blue Bland and people like Joseph Cotton and John Mayall out of England was a good one. And of course, that great guitar player, Lightning Hopkins, was probably one of the famous. And everybody's into these people today. And just because they can relate to that.
I see. Well, I'd love to explore more with you some other time. However, we are out of time. This is Kid Witness News signing off with Toot Sweet.
And be blue, or be bad, or be gone.
Blue.